Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and welcome back to F1 Manager. This is episode 27. We are heading next to Australia, which was the former season opener not that long ago. And we have like four parts of our facilities that, since the very end of the season, have deteriorated in their conditions, and definitely need to be at least refurbished, if not upgraded. And looking at least two or three of these options, basically these ones in the facilities, the car development facilities, probably going more along the lines of upgrade being the way to go, because, well, they're not upgraded yet. So the natural thing would be save the refurbishment money and see the upgrade happen, which is going to see us better the team. First of which, car part test center, engine cooling, brake cooling, which is one of our weakest areas, seeing an upgrade. That'll take just 1 month to complete. And now that we're up over 12 million, that's the one we can handle this month, and we'll have to work the others in time. Upgrades aren't going to be as frequent this season, especially as we focus on the car. I was hoping to really lay into the car development facilities this season, and then the whole mess that is the finances, the team attractiveness not impacting the sponsors. Totally going against what I thought. So, big mistake on my part believing that that's how it was going to be. Beautiful. Look at the facilities there, though. Rear wing design complete. We're going to get into the manufacturing of it, and then we'll see where we're at. My next upgrade is going to be a suspension upgrade. And for this one, I've taken off a little bit on the high speed, as we're fairly good there. I've really learned that the trick on doing these parts, if you maximize everything, you're actually creating complications. One, project takes a lot longer. Two, you gain less expertise. And three, you massively drive up the cost of the upgrade. We are trying to work within a budget. So to do so, the less changes you make away from a neutral focus, the better. But it is also quite clear that you can get significant gains by making, the right move the right way. Lowering one thing a bit, raising one a bit is a very cost-effective way to get the gains in the right places you need to get really, really effective gains, but then still be efficient in terms of cost and time, as these take time. The more you tweak things, really, really does impact that time. So what we're doing here is just altering to high speed to save some effort elsewhere, though it actually increases the cost by lowering that focus. But then the brake cooling, honing in on that one area. Now, if we do go neutral, and I might actually still consider, you know what, that's pretty okay. That's pretty okay to go neutral. Just increasing the one is going to decrease the time and the cost significantly. But focusing on brake cooling, I had it over 10, but this is nearly a 10% increase for the suspension. That's what I've kind of learned. This is about the suspension part only, and not the overall car. The overall car performance is what you get on the right-hand side, and you can see where the brake cooling, now with the suspension's impact on brake cooling, improved by 10%. The overall car is going to be better by roughly 5%. And that's a significant gain. In fact, that gets us to that over 50% threshold and brings us way closer to the rest of the field, which at least the midfield was all mid-50s anyway, so that's going to bring us up there. The one that's still really, really lagging behind, beside our low-speed cornering, very much something we need some work on. Front wing, please, which we have one on the way anyway. Engine cooling. Engine cooling is way behind, a good 10% behind everybody else. So this is addressing one of the three. We've got a new front wing on the way to hopefully help a lot with the low-speed cornering. And then next up we'll have to focus on engine cooling. Nice thing about a suspension upgrade is it is relatively cheap. It does not take a whole lot of time, but a lot of that is because we only altered one area, only tweaked one area, so it's going to take just a few weeks. And our first regulation vote change of the year is one that could be a really big positive for us or really big negative for us. It's minor technical regulation changes, and it's aimed at either low speed downforce changes or high speed downforce changes. Now, rationale here is actually quite simple when you think about it. We have good high speed. And you can see that, front wing, rear wing, underfloor, suspension, all impacted, and it's the same either side, with the exception, medium speed is all going to see a 20% reduction, but you're flipping, whether it's the low speed or high speed, that gets that 30 versus 10 reduction. So downforce is going to go down a lot in the coming season. Now, here's that simple rationale part that I was speaking of. If you impact high speed, and we're higher up the grid, that percentage drop from where we're at is going to be more significant because it's a larger number. If we take away from the low speed, we're starting from a smaller number. So 30% of a smaller number, say 30% of 10, right, would lower us to a 7. 30% of 20, and I don't know if our numbers are really there, but this is giving you the idea. We're clearly better at high speed, okay? But 30% of 20 means we're going to lose 6. We're going to drop to a 14. We definitely want it to be the low speed because our car is stronger in the high speed. Three days on and another design is done, and it's that front wing. So we're going to have a new rear wing, a new front wing coming on the car very soon. I don't know if either are going to be ready for Australia. I know that I have at least one rear wing ready, but it's a totally different matter to actually, put it on the car and try to do something with it. So I think it's going to be a week before we see either, but we probably will see both come next week on at least one car by then. Wings don't take very long. It's about 3 days to produce each. I would have one ready now as we head into the race weekend, but one's not enough, and it would be the end of the race weekend before we even get to 2, hence the next week. So that next upgrade is side pods, and again we're grabbing 10% this time to the engine cooling for the part, which adds 5% to the car, getting us almost over 50% on that one by the time it's done. The car's heading in the right direction because, again, that's going to address that third area. Now, that low-speed cornering is going to be better once we have those wings in place. But it's not drastic, so I'm going to have to turn my next focus again into probably another front wing or maybe the next underfloor upgrade, so we can keep going on actually getting the car going around the track, certainly around apexes, a lot faster than previous. The new layout for Australia, for Albert Park, is really good for me because it took a lot of medium speed or even lower speed corners and straighten them out quite a bit and turn them into fast sections, which obviously is good for our car. There's still 3 slow corners to worry about, but otherwise the rest of the track is definitely favorable. And here you don't have as much of the impact of our still iffy speed. I mean, our speed is so much improved, but it's still not good. It's still, I believe, 9th out of 10 teams. So top speed is still a slight issue, and low speed is still, something that's somewhat important at this track. But high speed corners are the main thing, and that is an area where we're good at. Let's see if we can get into the points finally. I'm still nervous that maybe I overplayed my hand a little bit at the beginning of the season, thinking that we were going to be a little more competitive than we've been so far. Obviously, we are so much better than last year, but good enough to get into the points at the right tracks consistently without some sort of help or aid, as in, 4 cars DNFing and we happen to beat a few guys, or, rain that moves us up the grid, either starting grid or, in the race at the right time. Those opportunities are nice, but it would be nice to, get into the points just straight up on merit.
Welcome to Melbourne for a weekend of fierce competition. We're a stone's throw from the beach here at the Albert Park circuit. It might be party mood in the grandstands, but in the paddock, expectations and tensions are high. The Albert Park circuit is bursting with rapid corners and a long straight where drivers can push their speed to the limits. Good attention to medium speed downforce will likely make beating this beast of a track just a little bit easier. At this early stage in the season, there are still plenty of opportunities for things to change. In this sport, there simply are no guarantees. There's nothing like a race weekend in Formula One.
Did you notice that they have the corner? It's, oh gosh, let's see, what corner is that? Turn 4, I believe. I believe it's right through here. Turn 3 kind of cuts off the road, and the road continues straight on that way. And here, they cut through a parking lot. Now, I don't believe F1, the game, does this. I don't think I've seen it in previous games, but they actually have the painted, parking spots throughout there, except the portion that actually becomes the track at this little chunk out of the year. And then, the rest of the year, it's returned to being a parking lot. They've got it included here. That's pretty cool. And here's my daily reminder to myself to put Jack Doohan into car number 2 for FP1. 2 for 3 now. Let's hope we can remember consistently. It's free practice session number 1. It's FP1, okay? But we've got things turned down. And Porsche and Doohan are not only ahead of the Aston Martins, but they're only a second and a half off the pace of the leaders, and we've been generally gaining a second and a half when we turn things up. Now let's say we only gain a second, but that puts us right there battling in the points. That's with Ocon, Alonso, Russell, Vettel, Bottas as of right now. Wow, we are going through tires super fast here. 23 minutes of running, not even pushing, and tire wear is that low. Of course, Doohan, what's his major issue? Do you remember? Yeah, he's got good pace. Terrible at managing tires, which is something you learn in F2. So anyone who doesn't follow F2, F3, W Series, the feeder series into Formula One, F2 is where managing tire wear becomes a huge thing, and that's where you essentially learn how to do that before getting into F1. And if I'm not mistaken, because I have not watched this year especially, and really the last 2 years just been a bit busy, but I watched a ton of a few years ago, and Doohan was definitely not around. He's one of the newer faces in F2. 40% is the setup we're starting with. Let's go ahead and push forward a bit. Porsche is the one who this time was just right circumstances, right place. Start of FP3, was nearly done getting a setup run in, and it is done now. We're going to have to get him back in. But look at his time. He is, at the moment, less than 2/10 off the front. Now, times are going to improve and change, and it's not going to be the same as it is right now. We're not faster than Verstappen. We're not faster than Bottas. But it is very clearly about 1.3 ahead of Albon. 1.3 ahead of Albon. So it is almost that second and a half that we've been traditionally gaining. And I think we're going to be running in the points for this race. Maybe. Maybe. I thought this before, and we didn't even get out of Q1. I do think now's the time. We're finally going to get out of Q1. But are we going to get out of Q2 is a totally different matter. I don't know if we're going to be that well off. We're still only on 85%, by the way. Still on 85%, so I made good and bad changes on that one. We've got the straights optimal traction. It's very clear what direction we need to go, and the others, your guess is as good as mine. Not only did Pourchaire miss out on a good finish last race, he also missed out on some massive gearbox wear from that big shunt into the wall that he had, where he flattened that left rear. So that hit lowered the gearbox by a good 20 to 25%, bringing us down from still good to go for at least one more race level to it's now our practice gearbox, as long as it's still capable of running. So we're going to have to switch to gearbox number 2 for Pourchaire much earlier than expected. So getting that early banker lap in, I don't think is as important as before. So what I'm aiming for now is to go a little bit later in the sessions for that first run, just have the 2 runs, and still go right at the end of the session for run number 2. I think I've timed this right. The cars that are around us, the Alpine that is in between us right now on the mini-map, the 2 Alpines actually, are both going to peel off onto pit road as they just finished their laps. Except we're in the way of one of them. So sorry. That was a big holdup. That was a big holdup to somebody who's on a flying lap. That would be somebody. Ocon's gonna have a pretty poor time there. Held up behind us. I thought we had a clear lane. That means he's quite possibly going to be in our way as well as we do our laps. So we're stacking up on top of each other. We got a Red Bull coming off pit road right now that's going to be very much in our way. Yeah, Ocon lost a ton of time behind us, and we have a Red Bull who just came out in the way, and he will absolutely impact our time. So we have Ocon in the way, not impacting Pourchaire, but here is a Red Bull stopping right in front of us, you mother. Throughout the entire chicane there, not even attempting to get out of the way, still not attempting to get out of the way, and we've lost probably 5-6 seconds behind the Red Bull. That is absurd. Pourchaire's time is going to be awful. Let's check in on Albin, as he has not yet come up on Ocon. Let's hope beyond hope that he can get through unimpeded. That was an iffy one. I think he's going to just about get away with that one. But here comes the Red Bull who hates all things us at the moment. Oh, gosh, he just dove right in front of us. And side by side through there, so he did impact us at least a few tenths of a second. It's not going to be a clean lap at all. That's why I went out for early bankers before, but then the pace really wasn't as representative as it could or should be, but might be a better option to stick to that than it is to do this, because neither one got a clean run in. Not that bad of a time though. Half a second off of signs. Late in the session, everybody's getting ready to head out on that last run, and we're going to run an experiment here. I'm splitting the drivers. So Pourchaire, second time on these tires. Albin, fresh set of softs. We'll see how different their time is. This should be a clean run, nobody in our way, and it's just about time to get out there. And let's go with 1, and let's go with 2. Albin's going to have a little bit cleaner run as long as he gets it in time. And is Pourchaire ahead? Okay, Pourchaire's ahead. He came out ahead. He's going to have clear space, so we'll be okay. He's going to be okay. The Haas is pretty close on Pourchaire's heels. Right now we stand in position that would get us out of Q1, and Ocon Sonoda, Magnussen, the only ones that seem to have... Oh, Perez, the only ones that seem to have messed up. And Verstappen as well. Porsche, very much up on his time, though. So, both Sector 1 and Sector 2, he is green. Albon, yellow in both sectors. Very much on or out of the bubble at the moment. We're ahead of the Aston Martins. Haas is coming around the same time. We need to see a better time, and Porsche does not move up. 1.1. But that would be kind of representative of the two cars, right? But Albon was really slow in the first two sectors and still managed to drastically improve his time. But Porsche didn't. I don't think that was really on the tires, though. I mean, Albon's time was representative, but maybe... it's still too close to call. It's too hard to say whether the time had anything to do with, did Albon go a little cold on the tires and then push later on in the lap? Because remember, he was yellow in two sectors and still managed to improve his time by a fairly decent amount. Yellow, for anyone who doesn't know, okay, yellow, green, purple, the three colors you get for the sectors. Yellow is slower than your own time in the same sector. Green is faster than your previous time in the sector. Purple is fastest in a sector. And as you can see, purple is also fastest overall for the lap. Norris already carrying a penalty? How the heck has he pulled that off in the third race of the season? Out in Q1, though. Again, horribly disappointing. And that was fresh tires for Albon, but he was slow in the first two sectors. So maybe that had something to do with it. Porsche, fast in 2, slow in 1, barely improved his time. Doesn't tell me enough. It does tell me we are over half a second faster than the Aston Martins, but we're still a little slow compared to everybody else. But the new parts are not on the car this weekend, and we will have a new rear and front wing coming next week, at least for one car.
It's race day, and final preparations are underway.
Williams had a good performance in qualifying. Now they'll be eager to demonstrate that they can have an even better race. Haas gave a solid performance in qualifying, and they'll be happy enough with their grid position here. Let's see if they can make it work for them. The weather is very overcast here, and teams are staring at the sky, watching for the first sign of rain. Strategies might have to be quite flexible going into today's race.
In any case, Melbourne is ready, and so are we. So strap yourselves in for the Australian Grand Prix.
Looking at the weather report, we are in for a wet race and early. It's going to start dry. It's supposed to be raining somewhere around lap 3 or 4. We'll see how quickly the track gets wet enough to switch on to the intermediates. If it's heavy rain, as it suggests early on, it should happen pretty quickly. This timing is going to be crucial. That also means, though, soft tires, full gas at the start of this race, as we have absolutely nothing to lose by waiting. So we're going to put both cars on that maximum option of really pushing in the early laps to see if we can't get some sort of track position before the pit stop. And then if we can time the pit stop correctly, so put my face cam back up, if we could time the pit stops correctly, then we could really benefit. And it looks like from there, an additional 2 stops, as the intermediates aren't going to really stretch into a 1 stop, even though there's a few laps that we can shave off at the beginning. The wet weather tires don't tend to last terribly long, as they tend to overheat quite easily and degrade pretty fast, especially as the track conditions change. And so I think the just push tactic could work out for us if these guys can keep it on track, and we could have a really competitive race as a result. We'll see how things go. This could get very chaotic.
It's a bit of a cloudy day for the race, but the atmosphere, as ever, is electric. Here we have Alexander Albon. Slower than most yesterday, So today they'll be starting from the bottom half of the grid. And looking at the second Williams car. They'll be starting the race from the bottom half of the grid, so there's a fair bit of ground to make up. Will their hard work pay off today? Get ready for the Australian Grand Prix. It's lights out, and away we go.
And the race is underway. Very much not the start position that I would have hoped for, as I felt we were a little better than what we got out of qualifying. And we'll see. Whoa! As everybody literally comes to a stop here, as someone checks up out in front. As we're expecting the rain soon. But again, full attack mode, trying to put pressure on the cars in front of us. Sonoda, Porsche is just behind him, less than 2/10 behind, less than a car length behind. Let's see if we can, under pressure, driving aggressively, make something happen here and get one position taken care of and out of the way. Albin has closed right in on Guan Yu Zhou, trying to do the same thing. Having a look to the outside, over the long straight, and we get squeezed a little bit there and have to kind of hold up behind. Already coming up towards the tail end of lap number 1. Verstappen leads from Leclerc, Perez, Sainz. Albin has made it around Guan Yu Zhou. There's one. He's already 2 seconds behind. Was that where that checkup happened? No, I think it was much higher up the grid than that, but Albin is going to work really hard to try to chase these guys down as we have officially entered our pit window as we drive like hell on the softs. Again, Porsche having a look, but not really well positioned here. But he's going to get up beside the Haas. Yes, he does. But he's going to have the outside of the second portion of the chicane. But he's going to complete the move. Yes, he is. Okay, Porsche's through. So both cars have managed. Both cars have managed to make a pass. So already we've gained a little track position. 2 minutes. 70% chance of rain. We, by the way, have a 70% accuracy on our weather forecast. You figure pretty good chance that the rain is, in fact, coming. Somebody has locked up. That's an Aston Martin. The 2 Aston Martins are almost stopped on track. And they did. They crashed into each other, so the Aston Martins are going to essentially be out of contention already. Let's go ahead and check that one out. That's the Aston Martins.
Let's have a look. It's Lance Stroll.
Big lockup. Into the back end of their teammate.
And that caused a lot of damage.
That's the kind of damage that could take you out of the race. Schumacher. So Schumacher, not Stroll. Schumacher has crashed into the back of Stroll. No VSC. Both are carrying on. And here comes the rain. Here comes the rain. Quickly about to exceed 1 millimeter. Albin is in front. Albin is going to pit right now. We have a Ferrari carrying on. We have an Alfa Romeo carrying on. We have an Alpine and a McLaren carrying on. And I am double stacking. Others choosing not to. Okay. Albin is in. Let's check from Porsche's perspective as he pulls in behind. And Albin is stuck. Albin is stuck. Why do other teams get to rejoin and we can't? So both cars, we just lost 7.5 seconds. Why are other cars able to rejoin and we cannot? One reason. 9th in the constructors. 10th the previous year, right? Puts us last on pit road. Or next to last, whichever it is. We've got another 7 cars into the pits. Let's see how it goes here in a moment.
Close.
Albin up to P9. Pourchaire, what's his position? He's behind a Ferrari. Who's in P13? That's Leclerc, who stayed out another lap. These guys who stayed out really hurting. Verstappen, comfortable lead. Hamilton, Alonso, Sainz, Ricciardo, Albin within the points right now. Schumacher in the pits for a very long time, and yellow flag, sector 1. Somebody with a spin there. It's either a Haas or an Aston Martin. It looked like it was Stroll. Stroll with a lockup. Check back in on Pourchaire as Albin's running comfortably in P9. Behind us is Norris. Ahead of us is Leclerc. Leclerc has pulled away a little bit, so Pourchaire not quite able to keep up with Leclerc, but he's only 1.2 behind. And that whole group is all gaining on the train. That is Alonso, well off the pace. Multiple cars have crashed. Safety car, safety car.
Watch
Here
this.
is the incident.
There's Leclerc.
We have Leclerc, we have Russell, we have Bottas, and Leclerc has wiped out Russell and Bottas. Bottas was also hit by that. So, huge 3-car collision there. Wonderful for us, especially as those are 3 contenders. Those are 3 solid points contenders. And are all 3 out, or all 3 compromise? All 3 are out. All 3 out of the race. How would Russell get a penalty? Russell didn't hit Bottas. That was entirely Leclerc. That is game logic. A little broken on that one, as Leclerc is the one to blame. Leclerc is the one to offer a penalty to. Russell was caught in the sandwich. Not his fault at all. Any way, shape, or form. Those 3 out of the race. 2 Aston Martins behind. Rory looking at no worse than a top 15. And not sure how well we can challenge Perez here, as, you know, it's a Red Bull. But we are going to go full attack on the restart here, at least for a moment, and see what, if anything, we can do about our positions for the time being. So lap 15, and what we're seeing is Verstappen easily pulling away, Alonso holding up everybody else, though Sainz has gone through. And we've seen another crash. That is 2 cars off into the wall. And going backwards very fast, it's Hamilton is one of them.
Safety car.
Here
Safety
comes
car.
another safety car. Another safety car.
Keep delta positive.
Hamilton and Alonso. So Alonso, who was holding everybody up, Hamilton trying to make a pass, and
let's take a look at the replay. Now, just
can't get
watch
by.
the Mercedes here.
They're both out of the race. And it's another lockup, same spot,
There's the hit.
same
And it's
situation,
crystal
and
clear
both
who
cars
was in
out
the
of the
wrong
race.
there.
And that is 5 out of the race now. 5 contenders out of the race, and we move up this time, I believe, 2 more spots.
We'll see.
So as we are preparing to restart, and I'm going to have to turn things up here shortly, we're now in P7, P9. Schumacher is a lap down, so you're looking at 14 competitors, and a few guys that are well off of our pace. We're well into the points. Now I have to start thinking about maintaining the positions we're in, but looking ahead of us, or around us anyway. You figure Verstappen, Sainz, Perez, yeah, very fast. Open season for 4th position right now. Ricciardo is up there. Vettel, Gasly is probably hard in the Alpine. So okay, he's probably a bit high. He might be a little hard for us. So P5 in the cards potentially. P7 of course would be great. Magnussen we're definitely racing with. Norris behind us and Ocon behind us are a big threat. I think we can handle Zhou and Sonoda as we have the track position advantage. We also could be looking at that one-stop race potentially from here if we continue to have safety cars. But it's lap 17, and we did pit a couple laps earlier. We've obviously prolonged the life of these tires a bit. The Aston Martins are definitely not a threat, and we are prepared to once again go racing. We're going to go, and away we go with Albin running well in the points, and I think we absolutely can hang on to this. But of course, pit road is our worst enemy right now with our pit box location, as we could have been so much higher if we weren't so late on pit road positionally. We've had another crash. One lap since we've gone green, and Magnussen has crashed on turn 13. I do not think this time it's an out of the race type crash, but let's see what it is. Just slid off, smashed the side pod or wing there, and will he continue? He's in the pits. That's Magnussen's race done, and that is one more position. That was the car in between us. That was the Williams in front and behind that. So that is now P7 and P8 for us. Whew. Let's go, boys. Track condition. Rainfall right at about 2 millimeters on track. Remember, 1.0 is that cutoff on intermediates. We're nowhere near wets, and it was looking much later in the race before we were going to see heavy rainfall, and we were expected to have pretty much steady rainfall from here through most of the remainder of the race. There was a couple times where the showers may stop momentarily but pick right back up within a couple minutes. So I don't expect the track to dry out properly. I would love if it just starts to get into that window and somebody decides to pit only to have it start raining again half a lap later. With 5 cars out of the race and 2 Aston Martins and a Magnussen heavily damaged now, I mean, you're looking at P11, P12 would be an awful finish for us. Does it even make sense to push like this? Well, it's what's helping us keep up with this front group. Ricardo holding up Vettel, Gasly, Perez, and we are just keeping up with that. And Norris is definitely keeping up, and so are these guys. So we don't seem to have the best pace. Albon and Pourchaire are not the best in wet weather conditions. So driving hard for us is what's keeping us in this place. Let's just hope that others pit soon because of the circumstances and don't go to the end of the tire life before pitting, because right now this is benefiting us as Perez finally is up beside Gasly. Looks like he will complete the move, and does. I like having Gasly as our next target as they continue to race side by side, and we are able to close up a bit on it. Oh, Perez losing back out to Gasly, as I think Vettel kind of blocked him off a little bit. Fuel saving feeling like a good option at the moment. Verstappen and Sainz are definitely pulling away more and more as time goes on, but my race is absolutely not with those two, and somehow is with Perez for the time being, but finishing ahead of him is tricky. Push with the tires to keep up. ERS is nice and fully charged, so we can get into some clean air. Engine up, ERS becomes great options. We seem to be keeping up with Ricardo only by driving aggressively. I can see where we are on those tires and where we really benefited from those. So we did lose a little bit of a gap there. You can't presume that we can put together this sort of tire life a second time either. This was multiple safety cars that created this scenario. This was not because we ran so brilliantly and conserved tires, nor can we assume that the weather will hold up perfectly for us to have the conditions continually be just right to limit the tire wear. So for now, we push until it's time to pit, and then we pit. Verstappen and Sainz driving away further and further, and Ricciardo still just holding the train up. No DRS, nobody able to squeeze on by. Tsunoda has fallen off the back a little bit, and then Magnussen and the Aston Martins are definitely well behind. But we do have a train all the way down to P11. So P3 to P11 all together, and Tsunoda just a few seconds behind. A two-stopper where everybody else opts for a one-stopper could be a real problem. But you can see Albon slowly falling back. This lap over a second behind. So driving that little slower to make the tires last a little longer, not good, not good. And we are getting close to our pit window, but it is lap 33 at least. I mean, we got 25 to go, and we've easily gotten much more than 25 laps out of these. But again, there's circumstances behind that. Quite a few laps under safety car, about 5 of them, at least adding, 3 laps to the life. Porsche into the yellow. Porsche needs to pit this lap. Somebody has crashed, that is. Somebody has crashed. Pit options. We need to double stack. This is where we need to pit. Safety car is out. Safety car is out. You have to take advantage of the safety car. I would love to see a lot of cars not. And I would love to see us come out behind them. And it's more cars in front again. It's cars in front again. It's contenders. It's Ricciardo. Oh, it was just behind Ricciardo. Gasly has a penalty, so it was Gasly into the back of Vettel. From P5 and P6 into the pits. Verstappen also into the pits. Sainz is into the pits. Huge gap backwards to Perez, though. Will these guys pit as well? There is Porsche held up by somebody with a puncture just in front of me. Is that Ricciardo? Ricciardo with the puncture. Really holding us up, though, so we lose a ton of ground in front. Those 3 are going to get away very, very cleanly. Ricciardo, that's probably going to take extra time, you would think, in the pits. Come on, buddy. You got to come out in P4 on this one. You've got to come out on P4. He's held up. No, he's out. He's out. He is in P4. He's in P3. Holy fuck. Porsche. Back out in P7. Okay. Everybody has pit, though. Albon has come out ahead of Perez. Ricciardo. Ocon. Porsche. And then Norris, Guan Yu Zhou, Tsunoda, Magnussen, Gasly, Vettel. Schumacher still hasn't even overtaken Vettel. He finally does that. So Aston Martin's 13-14. You're looking at a damaged Gasly and a damaged Magnussen, and then 10 cars still running smooth. And everybody pit, so we're now in the same condition as everybody else. We have got to try to extend, though, so hopefully Albon can hold some guys up. Perez, if anybody's going to get past, it's definitely him. But we can absolutely hold up Ricciardo, you would think. Alright, so engine mode up is the main thing we're going for. We need to conserve these tires to make them last 21 laps. I think they can absolutely last 21 laps now. So, okay. We held up just in time. That crash. Perfect timing for us. Absolutely perfect timing for us. We've had some really, really, really bad luck at times in this series, but so far today, 20 laps to go and 6.5 spare laps worth of fuel. You figure we can push on throughout. We can not have to lift at any point the rest of the way. Sainz and Verstappen are getting away. Perez definitely has Albon under pressure right now, but we hold him off for now. Let's... Right now we're looking at 1 more point for Haas, who already have about 8 on the season so far. That would put them at about 9, but we would be looking at a very, very solid point haul. It's what, 15 for third? And Porsche would add in 6 points, something like that. I was expecting 20 for the season. We are very much losing ground, though, to Verstappen and Sainz. Even Sainz is losing ground to Verstappen. I'm still only not quite 6 seconds behind. And we are pulling away, by the way. Ricciardo is 1.4 back now. We are pulling away from Ricciardo. Multiple cars have crashed. Safety car. The Haas car is wiping themselves out.
Oh no!
And there you go. Their 1 point is gone.
Mark my words,
that brings the Aston Martins up to eventually 11th and 12th place on the edge of the points. At this point, let's hope there's not additional cars retiring from this race, unless it's, you know, Verstappen and Sainz crashing into each other. I'd accept that one. This is getting crazy. And that's 2 key competitors in the Haas cars out of contention. Vettel out of contention, and then a bunch of front runners that have us, you know, in the optimum gift. Alright, so here we go from P3. We restart on lap 48. We have less than 11 laps to complete in this race now. And now our tire wear is looking pretty dang good to make it to the end of the race. And that, because what, it was 25 laps we needed to run, and now it's 11. We've done more than half of those, and we're at 75%. So we've used 25%. At this point, that would mean 50% would be where we finish up, as in comfortable. Also, any doubts we had about the fuel are gone. Porsche's up to P6. Porsche has passed Ricciardo.
Now we see the Williams here.
He's already side by side here, and it looks what end of the straight, turn 1, 2. No, there's the car park. There's the car park. Is that turn 4?
Gaining a position there. Oh, they make it look so easy.
But there you go. There's one more position gained. Like I said, saving it, using it at the right time could be beneficial. And now we are ahead of both McLarens with both cars and running P3 and P6. Now, I don't know if we can really challenge Ocon in the Alpine. I don't know if Porsche can really challenge anybody else, for that matter, at this stage. But that one's only 0.7 of a second behind Sainz. We're closer to Sainz than Sainz is to Verstappen. With the more aggressive drive style. Perez, though, just 0.1 of a second behind us. Very, very much putting us 2.5 meters on the rainfall, so the track is definitely wet. But no sign of heavy rain, so I think that'll hold up here on lap 51. Here he comes. Here he comes. And we're going to hold him off. We're going to hold him off. Back to neutral. Two and a half seconds behind Sainz. He's driven well enough away from us, but we have 3 laps to go. 3 laps to go. Here comes Perez again having a look. Back to neutral. We need to save a little bit more. We want to drive harder, more aggressive, defend. Just briefly. That's it. That's it. ERS is empty.
Okay, copy.
Corsair, meanwhile, 1.8 behind, so he's not going to challenge. He's running P6, and he's 4.5 seconds ahead of Ricardo. We're going to have to stay neutral as we do not have the ERS, but we are on attack mode.
One more lap.
Dry weather predicted. It has dried. It has stopped raining. The rain has stopped. The sun is coming out on the final lap of the race. The sun is also starting to come out on my face, or just about anyway. And this is the straights where we need to attack.
Yes.
A few turns to go. A few turns to go. Corsair comfortably in 6th place, 2 seconds behind, 4 seconds ahead. And Albin comes around the final turn. Yellow flag, sector 3, but Albin is going to hang on and take P3. Corsair, meanwhile, is going to finish in P6. Multiple cars have crashed here on the final lap. It is Stroll. It is Stroll.
Let's have a look here. This was
P3, P6, the two Aston Martins on each other. One of them a lap down compared to the other, and they wiped each other out on the final lap. We could have used that a couple laps earlier to finish under the safety car, but Verstappen wins, Sainz is second, and Albin on the podium. Massive, massive result. We're coming away with more points than I expected to get for the entire season in one race.
A wonderful result here for the Williams driver.
So much luck, though, with crashes and crashes on top of crashes and more crashes. And we weren't in any of them. Neither driver put their foot wrong. No mistakes all day. We got unlucky with that pit stop, end of the pit road. Guys coming out ahead of us that we could have come out ahead of. But other than that, we did not put a foot wrong. Look at that.
And it's
Podium.
The former Red Bull Junior team driver who continues to fly high.
From 16th to 3rd on the grid. 13 positions gained for Albin, 12 for Corsair. And of course, survival was a big part of this. Mick Schumacher couldn't even finish ahead of Lance Stroll, even though he finished the race. And that is because Lance Stroll Lance Stroll wiped himself out, but Schumacher was a lap down, and it was on the final lap. Practically 10 cars finishing the race, sort of 11 was all. Absolute insanity. McLaren gained 10 points, though. That is important. AlphaTauri gained 2 points. That is important. But most importantly of all, 23 points for us today. The standings. Albin all the way up to 7th place for the time being. He will not finish ahead of George Russell at the end of the season. I doubt we're going to finish ahead of the Alpines over the course of the season. They are very capable of scoring a lot of points. They have a strong car. They have strong drivers in 86 and in 85. Albin's only in 81. Our car is definitely not up to their level either. Porsche's only a 74. But this is going to be huge points. It's going to be huge experience. These guys are going to gain some development points for this performance today. And in the constructors, Red Bull has taken over the lead from Ferrari. Well ahead of the chasers. Mercedes, no points today. Williams, P4. We're not staying there, folks. We're 1 point ahead of Alfa Romeo. We're 2 points ahead of Alpine. We are 5 points ahead of McLaren. But look where McLaren is. P7. That's where we need to be. So our cushion over Haas and AlphaTauri and Aston Martin just got real big. 15 clear. No. 16 clear. I don't know if that's enough for the season to stay 7th or better, but my oh my. What a day. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Smash that like button, please. If you still haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.